Hi, Cassie.
Oh, hi, Fred.
Hey, wait, hold it. What's the rush?
Well, I'm in a hurry. See, we're 2 days late with the script, and Gwen is pushing to catch up.
Hurry, boy, that causes accidents, and I ought to know.
Okay, Fred, what's the matter?
Oh, frustration, red tape. Cassie, have you ever had to deal with an insurance claim? See, 2 weeks ago, this guy hit me, and I can't get his insurance company off their policies.
Well, get a good lawyer.
I thought about that, but I wanted to do this first. See, they said to send a letter, so I wrote out a blow-by-blow description of what had happened.
Good luck.
Oh, thanks, Cassie, but I was wondering, before I mail this, would you read it?
Well, sure, Fred. But I don't know anything about insurance.
Oh, that's okay. You don't have to. What I want to know is whether or not the writing is clear, and whether the blame is where it belongs.
On the other driver?
Where else?
Jenny. Jenny?
Yeah.
Could I ask you something?
Yeah, just a second. Yeah, what is it?
How important do you think punctuation, things like that, really are in writing?
Well, very important, or else we wouldn't be doing a whole script about dealing with them.
I mean, what if someone you knew wrote you a letter or something, and it was just full of mistakes?
Tell him to pack his bags and go back to high school.
I'm serious, Norm. The mistakes in this thing just turned me off. Am I making too much of it?
Can I see the letter?
I would rather you didn't.
Come on, Cassie, let us see it.
Norm, don't.
We can't help you unless we see it.
Oh, good. Everyone's here and ready to go to work.
We're just waiting for you.
I stopped off to see about your videotape. Someone will bring it over shortly. Now, we have got to see if we can't get this script finished by the end of the day.
Most of my stuff is ready.
Good, Jenny, good. Cassie, I spoke to Fred, and he assures me that your slides are going to be ready today. Possibly you could even tape a rough version before noon. Now, if you'll give me a few minutes to get a cup of tea, we'll all get down to work. Well, I think that we can all agree that this script should, 1, create a positive attitude towards editing papers to get rid of mechanical errors, and then to give students some good practical ways to make corrections using these: a good dictionary and a good handbook of English usage. Now to begin. Jenny, you are going to develop a definition, I believe.
Well, it's a distinction, really. It's the difference between revision or rewriting and editing.
Oh, okay. Please go on.
Revision involves making improvements in the content and the style of a paper. That could be extensive. It might include reorganizing paragraphs or sentences, adding or deleting material, even changing your whole approach to a subject. Editing is something else altogether. It's what happens when you proofread the paper and correct mechanical errors: spelling, punctuation, capitalization, grammar.
Anybody with half a brain ought to be able to take care of those.
You really think so?
Errors like that is just a sign of pure laziness in a person.
Not necessarily.
Oh, maybe it's some kind of spreading illiteracy.
Hi, Fred.
Hey, sorry to interrupt. Another brilliant debate, huh? Here you go, Norm. Guys up in editing asked me to drop it off.
Thanks, Coach.
Sure. Cassie, you got a minute?
No, not right now, Fred. We can talk later on, though.
Yeah. Well, Gwen said that you were in a real hurry to get those slides for that little videotape piece.
Oh, I am.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to tell you I was going to have them ready. By noon, probably.
Can you, Fred? That's great. Then we could all view it possibly this afternoon.
Okay. You'll have them.
Thanks, Fred. One day you'll surely be rewarded.
I sure hope so. Well, I better get back to work.
Okay, bye. All right, now where were we?
We reached illiteracy.
No, I don't agree. Mechanical errors don't automatically mean some lack of intelligence in a person.
What then?
Well, there could be lots of reasons. Oh, I grant you laziness might be one of them, but for a lot of people, getting spelling and punctuation and grammar down is just a real struggle. There's something about having to remember rules and all that just makes it difficult.
So what should those people do?
Well, like Gwen said in the beginning, Use a good dictionary and a good English usage handbook to make corrections. I see them on your desk, Norm.
Having them is one thing. Knowing how to use them is another.
That's what I'm getting at. If the script does nothing else, it should show students how to use them.
Actually, I think you're both right. In the first place, it's each person's responsibility to take punctuation, spelling, and grammar seriously.
Yeah, but people have different abilities.
Oh, I agree, and some students, I've found, have a natural struggle. But the answers to that are in these. Now, let's continue. Norm, you were going to organize some things on the dictionary, I believe.
We have an interview here with a Mr. Frederick Mish,
Okay.
a man that knows an awful lot about dictionaries. He's an editor with Merriam-Webster. The first thing he talks about is how the English language keeps on picking up new words all the time.
Well, I think there's a very good reason for it. Actually, I think I'd go them one better. I'd be inclined to say if your dictionary is more than about 10 or 15 years old, you really are using a book that's older than it ought to be for good reference purposes. The reasons for this are several. The most obvious one is that for the last 40 or 50 years, and particularly since about the end of World War II, the English vocabulary has been exploding. Reputable dictionary makers take a while to catch up with the new vocabulary as it establishes itself in the language. And so a dictionary that was edited 15 or 20 years ago really does not have a lot of words in it that a contemporary student needs to have available to him. Thousands of words, literally. There are about 10 years between the 7th and 8th editions of our collegiate dictionary, Webster's New Collegiate. And in that time, we had accumulated enough material to add about 20,000, over 20,000 new words and new senses of words. Not all of them brand new, but material that had not been in the 7th edition of that collegiate dictionary.
So, if we keep on picking up new words and new meanings all the time, how does a company producing a dictionary gather all the words together? Now, Mish said that they have a team of editors that are constantly reading all kinds of newspapers, magazines, technical journals, keeping records of all the new words they find and of how old ones may change in spelling or meaning. Those new words and spellings and meanings all went into their new dictionaries.
See, I thought the words we used sort of came from the dictionary.
In the first place, there's no such thing as the dictionary. There are a lot of different dictionaries put out by a lot of different companies.
Yeah, you see, Cassie, the dictionary doesn't create the words for the English language. Society and people do that. A dictionary records the language, and then a good one keeps up with it as it changes.
A good one? I assumed all dictionaries were good.
There's a big difference. And be careful of buying a cheap one. It may be nothing more than a reprint of some old one that's long out of date.
Norm, did he say anything about using the dictionary? What you can expect it to do for you? I mean in a practical way.
Just a second, let me find it. Because Mish had a lot to say about that, and I think he answered the question pretty well.
You get information about where the word came from, how it came to be an English word.
There it is.
Well, a dictionary is really an enormously valuable reference book, more than you might think just from thinking about it in terms of words. But simply with regard to words, besides meaning and spelling, and besides pronunciation, you get information about where the word came from, how it came to be an English word, whether it was borrowed from another language, or whether it was made up of existing elements. We call this the etymology. You get information about variant spellings. You get information about words that are derived from your main entry word. You would find a lot of information about the status of a given word in the language. Information that would be conveyed sometimes by means of an italic label, which would say archaic or obsolete, or it would tell you what geographical area the word was restricted to, or what national variety of English it was most common in, if it were a British term, for example, or Australian. It would tell you if it was non-standard or if it were a slang word. A dictionary entry would also contain very commonly information about synonyms and antonyms. And then as soon as you get away from the entry itself, you find information in the tables that the dictionary contains. Very frequently there's an alphabet table, a table of weights and measures, a table of metric equivalents, a table of Indo-European languages, books of the Bible, signs of the zodiac, any number of kinds of things. And then there are all of the front and back matter sections that American dictionaries, at least, are well known for. They contain things often like abbreviations, biographical names, names of mythological figures, foreign words and phrases that are commonly used in English contexts, signs and symbols that can't be alphabetized in the main body of the dictionary, information about when to capitalize words, how to punctuate, how to document sources in research papers. Very often there'll be an essay on the history of the English language in the front of the book, and there'll always be a set of explanatory notes telling you how to use the dictionary. So there's just an enormous variety of information in those books.
So we can say a good dictionary is almost a tiny little reference library, can't we?
Almost, yes. Depending on the one you use, of course.
The point we're trying to get across is to own a good dictionary, get to know it, and use it.
And the same thing is true for a good English usage handbook.
Seems to me the problem with a handbook is learning how to use it.
Oh, Cassie, it's not so difficult. You know, I wish we could take every student page by page through a handbook. Most of them, I mean, the good ones are pretty well organized. I would like to show you a tape that I want to use in the script.
Oh, good. I'd like to see it.
This is an interview with Janice Reddish. She is director of the Document Design Center in Washington, D.C. It's a nonprofit company that specializes in helping people to write better and to design better forms and documents.
You need a whole raft of reference books to keep yourself right on tune. I don't always remember. I read a sentence and I find that I'm not quite sure just what's wrong with it. I review work done even by my own staff, and I'm not sure if that person has the comma just right, but it's important before we send a document out from the Document Design Center that it be right. And so we do go to, for example, a handbook, a grammar handbook, and they are, for the most part, very well organized with color coding to show you from either the inside of the front cover or the inside of the back cover with shorthand that you can learn quite quickly where to go in the book to find that particular point discussed. And you can find the section, find the rule, check what you're doing, and it's a learning process, but it's also one that even professionals have to go back and check on quite regularly.
Hey, I've got an idea. Along with the tape, how about a nice long close shot of Jennifer's handbook? What more inspiration could you ask for?
All right, so it's well used. I've had this handbook since college.
And it is not of date yet.
Cassie, just how old do you think I am?
Grammar doesn't change all that fast.
Books of grammar don't create the rules of the English language, Cassie, any more than dictionaries create words. They just show you how to use the language.
No, I see now we need something else in the script. Some way to really demonstrate the use of a handbook.
Showing how to edit a paper?
Yes. Something from real life is what would work here.
No, or at least something true to life.
Yeah.
Well, if you two feel so strongly about it, maybe one of you could develop something during lunch today. Norman, how about you?
Sure, why not? Eating's never been important to me anyway.
Good, good. I'm very pleased. We've got a lot accomplished this morning. Now, all we need is the example, which Norm's going to take care of, and Cassie's documentary.
Fred! Oh, I was just about to bring you some coffee. No sugar, right?
My reward for having your slides ready?
Of course. Are they?
Yep.
Oh, then let me get my script, and I can go down and record it.
Cassie, my letter. Did you happen to have a chance to...
Well, I was going to bring it with me.
Great. Is it clear, do you think?
Clear. Well, see, I don't think it's finished.
What do you mean?
Well, maybe if you take the time to proofread and edit.
I mean, dot all the I's and cross the T's. I don't worry about that too much.
Well, you do when you're building a set and doing artwork. You do it perfect, right?
Oh, but writing is different. It's what you say that counts.
You mean content?
Yeah. Isn't that what you'd say, Norm?
What?
What matters in writing is content.
Content? Well, if you ask me, there are two things that count. What you say and how you say it.
Why don't you take a look at this?
Fred.
A second opinion won't hurt.
Norm's busy.
Come on, let me see it. What is this, Fred? Fred, do you mean to tell me that you wrote this?
Yeah. You see, this guy ran into me and the insurance
And
company...
you were going to send this?
Sure. I mean, I know it's not fancy, but...
Look, Coach, looks like you need some coaching around here.
Huh?
I gotta tell you, before you send this, fix the commas, fix the spelling, and fix the grammar.
What's the big deal?
Look, the way this thing reads, I can't even tell who hit who. I was traveling up the hill toward Mr. Bentley's car, deliberately making a right-hand turn out of the left-hand lane.
Well, I meant
The insurance company's going to go by what's written and not by what you meant. What's modifying what here? Who was making the turn?
See, I was going up and then he came. I mean, it's not clear.
Not really. Look, if you don't say specifically what happened and how, the insurance company won't pay.
They won't.
No. You can't separate what you wrote from what you meant.
You can't?
No! Here, let me show you something. Now, where is that tape we were working with earlier? The one with Janice Reddish on it. Here it is. Come here. I want you to hear what she has to say about what people think of mechanical errors like those. Sit. Yeah.
Being picky about word choice, punctuation, correct grammar, your writing says an awful lot about you to the person who reads it. If I get a cover letter and a resume in which there is a grammatical mistake or a misspelled word, I put it aside immediately. And I think that many businesses act that way. A local gas and electric company told us that they put aside 50% of the applicants at the initial letter stage because the letter of inquiry about a job is not correct. There's something wrong with it that tells them, that leads them to believe that this person does not have the skills for the job. So that's a person who is being rejected on the basis of his or her writing before he or she even gets a chance to present himself or herself.
Is this so bad that the insurance company might even reject my claim?
I wouldn't doubt it.
Well, what should I do?
Well, I think a good editing job might straighten it out.
Fred, I hate to leave you, but I've got to get down to the studio to tape this.
Now, you go ahead. I'll help Fred.
Well, you promised Gwen an example.
You're right. I did. And I got one.
Norman.
Fred, how would you like to have a piece of your writing in one of our programs?
Mine?
Sure, why not? It's really not a bad letter. It happens to be very true to life.
Well, I don't know.
We'll retype it, edit it, present it as before and after. Heck, better than that, no one will ever have to know it's yours.
Well, if I'm anonymous and it gets me my money, okay.
If Gwen likes it, we'll use it. But first, I'm going to see that you get a first-class lesson in editing.
Well, you guys do what you want to do. I'm going to go down to the studio and put my video piece together.
Hey, Norm, if they use this example in the show, do I get paid for it?
Don't push your luck, Fred.
The world's first writer, a caveman, or was it a cavewoman? Whoever it was had developed, along with their talents, the writer's first tools. And we can be certain those tools were pretty simple. But as civilization developed, writers had more and more to work with. A written language, for one thing, and then leather, cloth, parchment, and paper. They wrote with paint and brushes, ink, quills, pens, finally a typewriter. Still very simple, especially when you consider the tools a writer has to work with today. I think you'll agree, if tools make a difference, we ought to be the best writers ever. But would a word processor have made Shakespeare's plays more exciting? Or the Declaration of Independence more eloquent? No, not at all. Because when it comes down to it, all a writer must have is a scrap of paper, a pen, and a desire to write. And, for clarity's sake, a good dictionary and a good handbook.
Well, thanks to you, Fred, the slides worked beautifully. And Cassie, very nice. You really captured the spirit of what we wanted to say.
I have?
Mm-hmm.
One thing you've done is shown us that writing is a part of our lives and always has been.
And also the fact, when all is said and done, you are responsible for the content of your own paper.
N for the punctuation, N for the spelling, N for the grammar.
Excuse me, coffee anyone? Please.
Oh, yes, thanks. Oh, yes, we've got to get to that, haven't we? This example you came up with, Norm, It's quite adequate.
Quite nice of you to say so.
Some very common slip-ups here. Jenny, how did you plan to incorporate this into the rest of the script?
Well, do you think I could begin by saying a word or two about the handbook?
Uh-huh.
My advice would be to keep the one from your freshman English class. You're familiar with it.
Or should be.
And most of them are pretty well organized. Now, for the editing process itself, that's what this letter is for.
Well, now, what would be the first step if one set out to edit this?
Oh, wait. Let's ask Fred that question.
Me?
Yeah, we'll get an outside opinion. As a layman, so to speak, how would you approach an editing job?
I'd begin by proofreading the whole thing, the whole letter, you know, carefully, and marking the things that look wrong to me, or at least the things that I'm not sure of.
And how would you know what's wrong?
Well, one thing, I know more about these things, you know, like punctuation and grammar and stuff like that than you realize.
Good point, Fred. No matter how poorly we spell, we all spell more words correctly than incorrectly. We use grammar when we speak, and we see punctuation in everything we read, and this gives us a basic knowledge for editing our own writing.
And to start editing this, could we look at the first sentence here?
Okay.
This letter is to describe an automobile accident which happened between Mr. R.L. Bentley, who is covered by one of your policies, and me. The word describe is spelled D-I-S-C-R-I-B-E. A trip to the dictionary shows that describe is spelled D-E-S-C-R-I-B-E.
A common type of spelling error, substituting one vowel for another.
Yeah, but how do you keep from making that error in the first place?
What you're asking now, Cassie, is how to become a better speller.
Well, the best advice I can give is very simple advice. Try to take the time to improve. Make a list of all the words that you find difficult, and then try and discover a pattern in them.
Like getting the vowels wrong or misspelling a certain kind of word endings.
And then pay special attention to the spelling each time you see the word or the patterns that bother you.
Now, there's another mistake in the first sentence.
Yeah, it's a,
It has to...
Just let me finish this. It's the clause describing Mr. Bentley, which reads, who is covered by one of your policies. It needs to be set off with commas. It's a,
Noun clause modifying Mr. R.L. Bentley.
Right.
You mean, to get commas right, a writer has to know the different types of clauses?
Well, try to know all you can. But I've been working on a different system, a way to show people how to use and know punctuation.
Oh, go on.
Okay, first of all, there are two major punctuation marks, the period and the comma. The period's the mark at the end of the sentence. Exclamation points and question marks are variations on the period. The comma, the other major punctuation mark, signals an interruption, tells you to pause and then go on. That's what colons, semicolons, dashes, and parentheses all do in a sentence. They tell you to pause and then go on. Now, this little system of mine doesn't take quotation marks into account, and you really have to learn when to use those, but it's a start.
I never thought of it that way. But I like it. It's simple and sensible.
Well, shall we look at this sentence then? I tried to swerve out of the way, but we collided. What punctuation would you use?
Well, I can hear a pause before the word but.
But suppose you didn't know for sure if there was supposed to be a comma there.
I would go to my handbook. I would turn to the pages on the use of the comma, and I would see here that it says that a comma is used to separate two parts of a compound sentence when connected by the conjunction but. So yes, you would use a comma.
Okay, now, could we look at the next sentence? The back bumper of your client's car struck my fender. That should be client with an apostrophe S after client, right?
How would you answer that, Fred?
Yes, Fred. How would you answer that?
well, I'd open this book to the table of contents and look under
Possessive forms. Go ahead.
possessive forms. Okay. Oh, here we are. Okay, to indicate the possessive case of nouns and indefinite pronouns, the singular possessive is formed by adding an apostrophe S. So there would be an apostrophe S after client. It would read, the back bumper of your client's car.
Very efficient, Fred.
Yes, you certainly seem to know what you're talking about.
Well, proofreading and editing aren't so difficult.
Even with an anonymous letter?
Cassie, I don't understand.
Okay, so it's not anonymous.
Fred?
No, I want to go on. Please, let me. The truth is, Gwen, Jenny, I wrote the letter, this letter, and I wrote it with the errors in it. Even when I gave it to you, Cassie, I knew that it probably had some mistakes. I just didn't think that they were that important. I mean, what's a comma here or there? But then I saw how the meaning was all messed up. I mean, after all, I had the whole insurance claim riding on this. Well, Norm showed me some basic things about proofreading and editing.
You picked it up fast.
Yeah, well, it's mostly an issue of being willing to pay attention to it. Now, I'm not saying that punctuation and grammar errors will keep the sun from shining.
But they could have cost you money.
Yeah, and it seems ridiculous to turn out writing that makes me look, well, not so intelligent. Anyway, Norm asked me if he could use the letter, and I said okay. I mean, I needed some help with it to get the insurance money. And if using it helps students, that's okay, too.
Well, Fred, I think we need to thank you.
Yes, Fred. Your letter is perfect for our script.
Cassie?
I agree. When you fix the spelling, fix the punctuation, fix the grammar, it's going to be a pretty good letter.
Well, I hope the insurance company sees it that way.
Oh, it will, and they'll get a good, clear picture of where the blame belongs.
On the other driver, right?
Where else?